A very good afternoon to Dr. Su and also my fellow friends. We are from Group 4, and my group consists of three members, including myself, Niva, Ria, and also Aya. So today we are going to present our assignment 3. So let me start off with the introduction part. So in an information system audit, management controls in an IT infrastructure as well as business and applications are the focus of this study. Information systems are evaluated in terms of their ability to secure assets, maintain data integrity, and also operate effectively to achieve the business goals and objectives. The purpose of this audit is to evaluate the organization information system and provide suggestions on how to make audits more valuable. Audit techniques are the tools, methods, and procedures that an auditor uses to gather the evidence that he or she will need to support his or her view on the proposition or that the client has presented to him or her uh, for the inspection. Audit procedures are the application of methodologies to a certain phase of an audit in a specific manner. It was generally accepted that collecting evidence to support the conclusion was necessary in order to achieve the audit's goal and objective. So in this assignment 3, we will explore and discuss about the audit procedures as well as the conceptual parts of an audit process, which will be in the form of interviews, questionnaires, control charts, and also performance measuring tools, and among the others. Thank you. I would like to pass to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Andia Wahida and I'm going to present about task 1, which is the control objective that will be our focus during the interview. So the objective of this interview is to determine whether the performance of components, equipment, and system used by this bank is within a specification for the desired period. Next is that it also to determine the pattern of reoccurring failures that causes of failure, the underlying times to failure distribution, and the stress level that go along with the system. Furthermore, the interview was to determine the failure rate, mean life, and the dependability of components, equipment, and system, as well as their related confidence limit at acceptable levels of confidence. Other than that, it is also to know if the bank system followed the general rule, which is for daily data backup, is to backup data every day. Last but not least is data privacy, which is to know if they protecting personal data and emphasizing data privacy can have a number of positive effect on a company's bottom line, from exceeding customer expectation to gaining competitive advantage in the form of improved data quality, enhanced customer experience, and increased investor appeal and brand. Next is that B, which is the subject matter that we intend to cover in this interview and the chronological order in which we intend to cover this subject matter. So the first is that data privacy, which is data privacy refers to how a piece of information or data should be managed in relation to its importance. For example, you probably wouldn't mind revealing your name with a stranger in the course of introducing yourself, but you wouldn't share any further information with that person until you have gotten to know them better. When you open a new bank account though, you will almost certainly be requested to disclose a great deal of personal information far beyond your name. So we commonly apply the concept of data privacy to crucial personal information, also known as personal identification information, which is PII, and personal health information in the digital era, which is PHI. So social security numbers, health and medical record, financial information such as bank account and credit numbers, and even basic but sensitive information such as full names, resident, and birth date are examples. So example of the good topic to be asked regarding data privacy is, do they prepare for a data breach? Do they incorporate privacy by design into their bank system? And also, have they conducted a privacy impact assessment? Last but not least is that would they be able to demonstrate and measure compliance with global data privacy regulation? Next is that system upgrade. Given that Debts are here to stay. The trick is to recognize that investing in them will help your organization rather than seeing them as hassle. A few of the good reason on upgrading the bank system is increased productivity, improved communication, greater efficiency, better security enhancement, and vendor support. Next is that data backup and recovery. So bank managers should take their data backup and recovery seriously because there is no effect on performance. The majority of the time, customer is unaware that a backup solution is running in the background. Customer will experience fewer interruption, which equals better uptime. This benefit about his backup and recovery program, Metallic, is noted by Benjamin Aropa, a backup and recovery specialist at Parson. Its backup and recovery performance are outstanding. It performed admirably. I have no idea when it's operating, and the same is true during backup. It finishes successfully with no effect on the endpoints. A few of the good topic to us regarding the bank's data backup recovery are how can they ensure about their data quality, which statistically analysis technique do they apply, what data visualization should they choose, what is the most helpful software they have been using. The next is that C, which is any topic where we will need to take special care because the project manager might react adversely to our raising them. So the first is that the special part that the bank auditor and project manager should really be focusing on is system backup and recovery. The first things we should do to make them realize how important backing up the data is by telling them the benefit of data backup, such as this is with which they can retrieve files and information. When they back up their data, they can access specific files in a matter of seconds. When they use a cloud storage solution, they may access their data not only quickly but also from any location with an internet connection. Other than that, their system may be vulnerable to damage that is beyond their control at time. Power outage, whether caused by a severe storm or a random blackout, have the potential to destroy their system hard drive. Backing up their data on a regular basis or allowing a system to do so for them assures that they won't lose important data due to a power outage. Next is they explain that a hard disk might fail for a number of different causes. When the particular portion of a hard drive become worn or damaged, it might cause it to malfunction. Furthermore, not all hard drive crash at the same time. Some deteriorate slowly over time. It makes no difference if your hard drive is if their hard drive is damaged by a massive head crash or if pieces of the hard drive fail one by one over time. So the end effect is data loss in both cases. Thank you so much. I'll pass to the next presenter.
My name is Ashura. I will be presenting for task B. Design an internal control questionnaire that could be used to evaluate whether asset safeguarding and data integrity objectives are achieved within the database administration function. Assume the questionnaire will be completed by auditors during the conduct of an interview with the database administrator. So the first question is, what is the auditor's role in an audit of internal control? In an internal control audit, the auditor's goal is to express an opinion on the effectiveness of the company's internal control over financial reporting. Because a company's internal control cannot be considered effective if one or more material weaknesses exist, the auditor must plan and conduct the audit to obtain appropriate evidence sufficient to obtain reasonable assurance about whether material weaknesses exist as of the date specified in management's assessment. Even if financial statements are not materially misstated, there may be a material weaknesses in internal control over financial reporting. For the second question, how does the audit of internal control should be integrated? Internal control auditing should be integrated with financial statement auditing. However, the audit objectives are not identical and the auditor must plan and perform the work to achieve the objectives of both audits. The auditor should design his or her testing of controls in an integrated audit of internal control over financial reporting and financial statements to achieve the objectives of both audits at the same time. In order to obtain sufficient evidence to support the auditor's opinion on internal control over financial reporting as of the end of the fiscal year, and to obtain sufficient evidence to support the auditor's control risk assessment for the purposes of the financial statement audit. Obtaining sufficient evidence to support control risk assessment of law for financial statement audit purposes typically allows the auditors to reduce the amount of audit work. For the question 3, how does auditors plays an important role in risk assessment that underlies the entire audit process? The entire audit process described by this standard is based on risk assessment, including the determination of significant accounts and disclosures and relevant assertions, the selection of controls to test, and the determination of the evidence required for a given control. The degree of risk that a material weaknesses exist in a specific area of the company's internal control over financial reporting and the amount of audit attention that should be devoted to the area have a direct relationship. Furthermore, the risk of a company's internal control over financial reporting failing to prevent or detect misstatement caused by fraud is usually greater than the risk of failing to prevent or detect loss. The auditor should concentrate more of his or her efforts on the areas of greatest risk. Question 4. What is the most effective way as a natural extension of the risk-based approach and applicable to the audits? The size and complexity of the company, its business processes and business needs may have an impact on how many of its control objectives are met. The company's size and complexity may also have an impact on the risk of misstatements and the controls required to address those risks. Scaling is the most effective when used as a natural extension of the risk-based approach and is applicable to all company audits. As a result, a smaller, less complex company or even a larger, less complex company may achieve control objectives differently than a larger, more complex company. For the question 5, how auditors should addressing the risk of fraud? When planning and carrying out of the audit of internal control, the auditor should consider the results of his or her fraud risk assessment. The auditor should evaluate whether the company's controls sufficiently address identified risk of material misstatements due to fraud and controls intended to address the risk of management override of other controls as part of identifying and testing entity-level controls and selecting other controls to test. Question 6. What should auditors do if they identify fraud during the audit of internal control? If the audit discovers flaws in control designed to prevent or detect fraud during the audit of internal control over financial reporting, he or she should consider those flaws when developing his or her response to material misstatement risk during the financial statement audit. Question 7. What approach should auditors use to the audit of internal control? To select the controls to test, the auditor should use a top-down approach to internal control auditing. A top-down approach to internal control over financial reporting begins with the financial statements and auditor's understanding of the overall risk to internal control over financial reporting. The auditor then focuses to entity-level controls before moving on to significant accounts and disclosures, as well as the assumptions that go with them. The method focuses the auditor's attention on accounts, disclosures, and assertions that have a reasonable possibility of material misstatement in the financial statement and related disclosures. The auditor then confirms his or her understanding of the risk in the company processes and chooses for testing those controls that adequately address the assessed risk of misstatement to each relevant assertion. Question 8. What are the auditor's considerations on internal control over safeguarding of assets? Internal control over asset safeguarding against unauthorized acquisition, use, or disposition may include controls related to financial reporting and operational goals. This is how relationship is typically where the auditor's consideration of safeguarding controls is generally limited to those relevant to the reliability of financial reporting when obtaining an understanding of each component of internal control to plan the audit. A financial statement audit may be relevant to the use of local systems for collecting cash or access controls, such as password that limits access to data and programs that process cash disbursement. Controls to prevent excessive material use in manufacturing, on the other hand, are generally irrelevant to a financial statement audit. Question 9. Which control enables to safeguard data and physical access? To keep value in the organization, access controls keep people out. Setting permission levels to protect data and physical assets is one of the most common controls used by businesses because it is so simple to implement. Secure passwords and two-step authentication procedures make it difficult for employees to use the login credentials of others in password-protected areas. Furthermore, changing password on a regular basis allows access controls to remain consistent over time. Access logs and usage history reports are automated features that can be used to audit software systems on a regular basis to detect discrepancies. They can also be used as evidence to identify wrongdoing when errors or fraud occur. Physical access controls such as restricting badge access to employees who should not be allowed in certain areas allowed for more effective management of tangible assets. Safes for cash or other valuables are another type of physical access controls. Question 10. What should auditors do to protect data from missing? The most overlooked internal auditing control system is data backups because accurate financial data necessitates technological interaction between platforms. Financial input loss can skew reporting and middle audits. When technology fails, previous reports and vital data can be lost, causing reporting delays and impairing essential accounting functions. When computers become corrupted or server fail, backing up computer files to the cloud protects data from the loss.
As for the task tree, which is the question is the software that handles the interactive system consists of a master program that calls subroutines from a library to handle various functions to be performed in light of an interactive request from users. For each event that you intend to measure, indicate whether you use a hardware monitor or firmware monitor for measurement purpose, explain the reasons for the choice. So response time is defined as the amount of time that elapses between the submission of query on a computer system and the receipt of a response to that inquiry. A response time is a metric used to assess the overall performance of a system. It may be able to apply to service requests made using a range of technologies. It is possible that the fast reaction times are important for effective computing. So there are 5 types, which is number 1 is the number of requests per second. Request per second, also known as throughput, is a measure of how many requests are received by an application, website, or software program in 1 second. So in most cases, a higher number of requests per second result in slower response time. And throughput metrics assist teams in determining the maximum load per second that an application or server can handle before failing or experiencing the lower response time. So the team has the ability to raise or reduce the holds based on the amount of demand or the application is experiencing on any given day. So the second point will be input and output of the data. So basically what we can understand is this statistics keep tracks of the size of each batch of request as well as the number of answers the server or application generates in response to those requests. So a ratio of 10 to 1 is achieved. For example, if 100 server requests are made and only 10 replies are written, in order to prevent pause and also delays in the response time, As a result of increased server traffic, developers may need to raise the threshold for the server requests and also the output as the demand grows. For the third point, which is the average time it takes to respond. Average time, also known as art of a server or application, is a measurement of amount of it takes to reply to all the data inputs and requests that it receives. A lower average response time is often associated with higher performance since the server or the application able to react to the new request. However, if there is a large number of anglers in the data, the art measure might provide distorted findings in certain cases. For example, we have the server that has a greater response time during the peak hours. These figures may be combined to provide an increased overall average that makes the server and application seems to be slower. So the fourth point will be the response time at its highest point. So for a full and precise evaluation of a server, response times and the system administrators generally monitor peak response time in addition to average response time. Peak response time measures the response times that are longest for server application, as well as the hours indicated in the art part of this document. This information assists the system administrators in determining what maximum values are likely to delay reaction time, and also how to account such outliers in the art measurement, and among the other things. The fifth one will be the usage of the hardware, where it indicates how much computational power is used by request and response times on the device. To evaluate whether the server hardware is satisfied for the criteria for peak response time, we may, for example, monitor a quantity of RAM, or also called as random access memory, the server consumes during a certain peak hours. This matrix assists administrators in determining whether or not to update their hardware system and assist the reliability of their present hardware system. So for the next part, which is identify 5 events that might be measured to determine whether the response time on hardware or software, and explain the measurement that we would undertake, trace activity duration, and so why you would measure the activities released in the manner and specify. The variables, the first one will be the variables of the tools vectors that may change the throughput throughout the course of the experiment, such as temperature. So during this test, the average response time of the application, for example, may be used as control. Different network speeds and connection may be used as a variable in comparison to control and to see how well it performs. So when we talk about the first event, would be creating dialogue from different control devices, such as trackers, haptic interfaces, and applying the conversation to a system or application, which results in suitable multimodal display modifications. It is described in detail in interaction software. IT software is responsible for analyzing the raw inputs, and which is comprised to be the physical hardware. Second event would be the performance and studies that may be used to determine whether the cloud testing should be used. One example is the usage of Load Focus, which is an easy to use and low cost online service that delivers reliable data and also compatible with one open source, which is called Apache JMeter. This is a software related issue. And the number third will be make a formal declaration of occurrence. This occurrence when an external hardware device or another software system causes interrupt, such as voltage change, or when another program demands a service, at which point a signal event is recorded. It is a combination of software and hardware. As a result of incorrect data, which is number 4, received from an input, the information needed to convert the system state from a control device into a good conversion. So it's created in order for the system to function properly. Certain actions and also that are relevant to the application are then carried out once the dialogue has been provided. So this has to do something with the hardware. And the fifth one will be temporal occurrence. This occurrence is actually caused by the passage of time. It happens when the stated time or predetermined length has elapsed since the last occurrence. The sensor has been configured such as it records the temperature reading every 10 seconds. This is accomplished via use of the hardware and software as well. So the next part is how to measure the duration. There are a variety of measures that we may use to determine the server response time. Most often, administrators access server response time using a phrase that called time to first byte, which is TTFB, which refers to the amount of time it takes to process or to receive the first byte of a response from a server in a million seconds. When administrators are familiar with these statistics, they may more effective evaluate server response time and understand when and why the server may be operating poorly. So aside from the application, we have a HTTP request from a client application. In this instance, TTFB measures are applicable, but accessing applications response time may be additional needed the monitoring of the network components such as TCP, applications, port, and also other database. In addition to this application response time, there are many discrete metrics that may be used to evaluate reaction time, particularly in the context of user experience and overall performance. This includes average response time that determines the average response time as per loading HTML, JavaScript, and also images. This average is driven by the system components that are in. And in order to determine which component queries or requests are slowing down response times, we should look at the peak response time. And the last one would be the error rate, indicates how many requests are problematic as compared to the total number of requests that occurs within a certain time frame. So here we can see a picture on how to measure the response time and how it looks like an acceptable response time range 0.1, 1.0, and also 5.4 seconds. And that's all from me. I would like to pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
For the conclusion part, to summarize, while each audit process is unique, the audit process for most engagements is similar and typically consists of 4 stages: planning, fieldwork, audit report, and follow-up review. Client participation is essential at all stages of the audit process. Audits, like any special projects, necessitate some time away from your department's personnel. Moreover, one of the primary goals is to minimize this time and avoid interfering with ongoing activities. During the audit planning phase, the auditor notifies the customer of the audit, as well as discusses the scope and objectives of the examination with organization management in a formal meeting. In addition, gathers information on important processes, evaluates existing controls when narratives and flowcharts are available, and lastly, plans the remaining audit steps. As previously stated, audit clients have the opportunity to participate at each stage of the audit process. There is no doubt that the process works best when client management and internal control as well as internal audit have a strong working relationship built on open and ongoing communications. Last but not least, auditors have an understanding of the unique characteristics of their unique operation after working with management on a project. As a result, they can assist clients in determining the feasibility of making additional changes or modification to client's operation. So that's all from us.